What's going on, guys? Eric here, as always, with my buddy Chris.
What's up, guys?
I am Rarity Games, here to bring you an awesome podcast. It's been a little while since me and Chris were able to sit down. I got a lot to catch him up on. He's been out handling family business.
I hear some kind of specs might have been out for a system that may or may not be called the PlayStation.
And there's a whole lot of news this week, man. Not just that, and the controller, and so much has gotten announced.
Yeah.
I wish I could have got this done sooner, but we've both been so busy. And it's been a week. Like the last video I made was strictly PlayStation news, and then 2 days after I make the video, they go, "Oh, here's PS5.
Yeah,
you want to check it out, guys? Oh, by the way, holiday 2020."
Well, since Sony doesn't have that regular E3 announcement, Gamescom announcement cycle anymore, they kind of just do whatever they want and keep randomly dropping huge bits of information on us for no reason whatsoever.
It's crazy. It came out of nowhere.
Well,
too.
and if you think about it, they dropped it on a Thursday.
Yeah.
So that way they own the conversation for the
same
weekend.
Same thing they did before when they were talking about it. They just had Mark Cerny just go over and just talk to
Wired again.
Yeah, just go ahead and go talk to Wired and just chill with them and let them see their controller and just a prototype at the very least.
Yeah.
There's been some rumors regarding that the reason they got a prototype was because they're still possibly getting rid of that touch bar and putting a small screen.
I would love to see them get rid of the touch bar. I was never a touch bar fan to begin with. But B, a small part of me would be really entertained by a screen right there, because that was the old Dreamcast idea of having a screen right there on your controller, and it was like this little memory unit that you could pull out and be like a fake Tamagotchi with it. It was an idea that was way ahead of its time that they never really fully utilized. But I could totally see that working. I could also see maybe Nintendo having some kind of multiplayer functionality with switch lights to a main switch as a hub exchange. So,
dude,
you never know.
There's so many possibilities right now. They have so many things to work on, and one of the specs that we're gonna get into the article that's up right now. But one of the specs is the haptic feedback thing in the controller.
Yes.
And that's awesome. Getting rid of the vibration completely and going towards what the phones have, and they can kind of target your presses and your movement and where your hand is and give you feedback in that exact location.
It's a similar style to what Xbox has already been doing also, where if you half pull a trigger, you can program resistance into the actual trigger itself. So for example, if you're racing, you have a distinct difference between a full pull and a half pull. So that's a nice.
Well, that goes along with but that's what's in the controller, and then the tension thing is a whole other thing with the triggers.
Way it creates the vibration.
The reason I brought up the haptic feedback now is it kind of goes along with what I was saying with the screen thing. It's an interesting thought, because it's okay, they're doing something that's designed for our phones. What if they really do put a tiny little almost Apple Watch size screen just smack in the middle of the controller?
Well, you never know. It might not even be Apple Watch size screen. You could get a good 2-inch screen in there and have it be an tiny iPod mini size in the middle of your controller.
Look how big it is already. You just get a corner of a phone, and it's boom.
If you take that exact touchpad area out of the controller, you could put a screen of that exact dimension just right there.
Literally, you could even stretch the controller a little bit, because people do say it's still small.
We don't have a tape measure, but that looks like it's an 1.5 diagonal, 1.75 diagonal. So even close. That would be a good size screen just for simple responses for game. Your dialogue options can come up there, but that also starts to venture into that whole Wii U territory of you have a tablet, you have a second device that you're interacting with along with your game.
Yeah.
So that might go well, or it might not go well. I don't think the touchpad this generation really stood out as anything some games just had a little oh, this does a thing. Here's something, but it wasn't. I can't personally think of a game that really utilized it well, except maybe Okami, where you can draw on the touchpad on that version. But on the Switch, you can draw on the touchscreen. On the Xbox, you just can't draw. You have your stylus. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a selling point in my mind. One of the things that I'm perplexed and slightly confused about is apparently Xbox is going to still have some kind of emphasis with a camera with the next generation system. That's what the rumor mill has been pumping out this week. You would assume Microsoft learned their lesson that nobody wants cameras with their game consoles. The only thing I can possibly think that they would be pushing forward with this might be the rumored Oculus integration that they've been talking about since last generation.
Yeah.
AKA this current Xbox One generation that they never implemented.
Well, you see them doing all this stuff with all these other companies, like they're letting Google Homes and Amazon Echoes access the PlayStation.
They have
the Xbox. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they have the APIs you can access.
Yeah, like there's a lot of, and they just been cool with everybody. They're making a Microsoft Surface right now, and a Surface phone that it has
Duo,
Android
like
on it.
Yeah.
It's gonna have Android in it, and like that's something you haven't seen from Microsoft in the past.
Not only that, but
getting interesting.
Some computer stuff from this side is that the newest release of Microsoft's Edge browser actually is built on Google Chrome. It uses Chrome as a backbone, and then they went in and kind of tooled with it and messed with it to interact with some of their like Office Suite security stuff and stuff like that. But it's a Chrome skeleton that's running Microsoft's browser, which is crazy to think that they abandoned their own browser finally after like 20-something years.
Yeah. It's just cool to see them not being like, oh, we're going to compete with everybody and we're going to build one of everything and try to do our best at it and compete on the phone market, the gaming market.
They're still competing, but
everything.
It's acknowledging that another operating system
But they're not competing in the parts of the industry that they know they're not going to win. Like, Google and Apple got the phones. We're just going to leave it, and then why not work with them? PlayStation's killing it with the console right now. We're still going to make our own console, and we're still going to compete, but we're also going to work with the company on the back end to help both our companies. And
that's
they're doing that with a lot of people.
That's the crazy thing, though, is that Sony's been quietly building this little PSVR army and lobby of games, and there's a couple million units out there. I don't believe they have exact numbers out, but there's a lot of units. They went through at least one hardware revision, because remember the whole HDR pass-through issue originally when it launched. So they've made improvements to the hardware. They're supporting it. It's going to be one of these quiet giants, I think, for Sony. And I think Microsoft sees that as just another box that's not checked for them that Sony has checked, that Sony has amazing first-party games. Sony has VR. Like, these are things that Microsoft has to seriously think about what they're going to do about with next generation literally a year away.
100%.
Because they're saying holiday 2020. So, save your money, guys.
Yeah. So, let's hop back into that. I'm going to pull this page up for you guys. Here's the article or the blog from PlayStation themselves on the next gen. Yeah, I guess we can pull this up for us over here so we can see it. Yeah, here you go.
There we go. That works.
And all right, so I wanted to highlight a few specific things that they said. They did. One of the quick things is they did say for sure Ghost of Tsushima is coming for PS4. Like, they said it right here. Like, you have plenty to look forward to before PS5.
I'm not surprised about that at all, because being that everyone's pushing backwards compatibility and cross-generational support, I think there's going to be a lot of games that come out of the end of the PS4 generation that have a PS5 equivalent or some kind of upgrade or something. Like, much like they did with remastering The Last of Us from 3 to 4. Like, it was such an important game that they were like, we need to get this out there.
Yeah. Well, so this is from Jim Ryan, the president and CEO, and to that end, there are two key innovations with the PlayStation 5's new controller. First, we're adopting haptic feedback to replace the rumble technology found in controllers since the 5th generation of consoles. With haptics, you truly feel a broader range of feedback. So crashing into a wall in a race car feels much different than making a tackle on the football field. You can even get a sense of variety of textures when running through fields of grass or plodding through mud. Now that, like, as soon as I read that, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, they're really going for it. Like, you can imagine, like, right away thinking of, like, The Last of Us 2 when that, obviously he's going to end up getting a remastered version for PS5, and, like, playing that game from the trailers I've seen of that, like, with Ellie running through the mud and all that, and, like, going through, like, dodging and dipping out behind cars and crawling under things. Like, could you imagine the bottom of the controller giving you feedback when you're crawling and then, like, when you're running?
Some of the existing games that could be upgraded that were recent or benefit from that. Days Gone, if you have that in Days Gone as you're like going through the gears in your motorcycle and it vibrates different as you go through different gears, like it feels different, that would be a great way to improve that driving mechanic.
You hit that shift, and as soon as you hit shift, you feel the clunk in the controller, and then it vibrates a little harder, and then and it's not just the vibrate we know. Like, it's gonna feel different based off how the developers design where the motion and the feeling is coming from, and that's incredible. And then to go on with
that's almost tying into like some of those, like you might have seen like 4D movie experiences where like the chairs tilt and like it blows steam and smoke at you. It's kind of building off of that, but it's coming from your controller. Yeah, it reacts differently, which I think it's going to be great.
And building off of that, it's like they went even farther with the tension in the triggers, as we mentioned. And they said here, the second innovation is something we call adaptive triggers, which has been incorporated into the trigger buttons L2 and R2. Developers can program this resistance of the triggers so that you feel the tactile sensation of drawing a bow and an arrow or accelerating an off-road vehicle through rocky terrain,
which I think is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and in combination with the haptics, this can produce a powerful experience that better simulates various actions. Game creators have started to receive early versions of the new controller, and we can't wait to see what their imaginations have.
So Nintendo has had the like HD vibration. They tried to have better haptics on the vibration itself. However, they did not do anything at all for the triggers or the resistance or anything. And if you played with the
interesting idea,
the Joy-Cons, you feel those triggers are not exactly the most high quality of things. I think this combined with the new PS5 controller is going to really be a huge step up.
And their controllers, in my opinion, are already incredible. And for them to put something like, I've taken these apart and I know what's inside the triggers now, and that little spring and like the stuff that's in there that makes it the tension it is. I'm pretty happy with the tension it has, and it doesn't have a lot of clacking or anything. But what are they going to put in there? Like some kind of spring, like coil or something that actually has some kind of programming in it to like create more resistance or less resistance when the programmer decides that?
I think that's exactly what it's going to do. It's almost going to be like a, if you remember back in the day, the force feedback, like original, like Rumble, they program for just a call. Well, instead of programming for just a call to rumble, like an on-off, you're programming for, say, one of like 10 different settings or one of 5 different settings. So you're getting more of a mechanical engineering aspect to it, built into the actual controller, which if you think about it is really awesome.
Dude,
because you're improving the thing you hold in your hand for hundreds of hours at a time in the game. And doing those kind of things are the updates that end up making a huge impact that you don't even think are going to make a huge impact, because you're going to feel it and be like, oh, it feels just like a PS4 controller. But as soon as you start to use it and it moves different and gives you different feedback, that's the thing that's really going to grab attention.
Dude, I'm just imagining Horizon Zero Dawn 2 when they say the bow. Like, they specifically mention it, and it's like, dude, just feeling that...
And it reminds me...
the pull in the left trigger, it'll be a slower pull rather than a gun where it'll be like, bang. Like, you'll feel the snap when it bangs, where the bow, it's going to make it slow.
It reminds me of PlayStation taking the feedback of, hey, why are you guys not making an Elite controller? Xbox has their Elite controller for like $129 or whatever the heck it is. Why haven't you just made like, oh, this awesome controller? Well, now they just brought it out for the next generation.
Yeah, and
that being said, I don't think this is going to be a $60 controller.
If
Nintendo can get away with $80 for a pair of Joy-Cons, which is essentially one controller,
dude,
I wholly think they'll be able to do at least $80.
$100. I'm saying they're $100.
I'm going to say it's going to be $80 for the standard like black ones or whatever, like your regular
and
colors.
Then any colors,
and then they're going to have custom colors and custom stuff, or it's going to be the $100
That's a possibility.
editions.
I see them as starting at just $100 flat, no matter what. Like, that's it. Like, because dude, everyone has mentioned this when they read this article. IGN, GameSpot, everybody that I've seen talking about this, they all were like, but the price of those controllers, like everyone.
They had mentioned that they're purposely going to put a larger battery in the PS5 controller. Like, they heard all the feedback. They have to. With all the extra stuff they're putting in it, on top of all the feedback that they've heard of people's controllers dying too quick or whatever, it's totally going to be a more expensive unit. Now, whether they're not going to include a rechargeable battery with it and try and have that played off as like part of the price, you never know. That could be one of the options, so that way it's not as expensive. But it's going to be interesting to see, because all these innovations and upgrades do definitely cost.
Yeah, they definitely do, and it definitely, like you said, it's gonna be interesting to see it, and it's like I'm surprised that they're coming out with all this information that even this early when they have a good year and some change left over.
Well, you ready? You know what I personally think this is what was the PlayStation Fan Fest they used to do around the holiday season?
PSX.
I don't think they're going to do another PSX this year. They didn't do it last year. I don't think they're going to do it this year.
They might.
I don't think they will,
I don't know.
especially with them dropping all this information right now.
Yeah,
this is the
I
type
agree
of
with you on
information
that.
they would have as like a crown jewel of a PSX. Of,
Yeah, but
hey, you're PlayStation's most hardcore fans. Listen to this. This is what we're doing.
But the thing is, we don't know anything about any PS5 launch games, and we haven't seen an in public presentation of the PS5 or anything with it.
You're absolutely
right.
right.
I think this is them setting expectations for what people are gonna get. And then they wait until all their PS4 games are done, over with. Everybody has them. Everybody's loved them. Then they do this event and announce and present the actual.
I agree with you. However, this was their last opportunity to talk about it before it came out at their own thing. I mean, they could
I
totally
feel you,
do
but
this,
I think they want to set expectations.
They could totally do the state of plays and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of like, short of them doing a PS4 launch announcement, which was like they book a theater and send out invitations, that kind of thing. Because if it was going to be a PSX, the next one is going to happen after the PS5 launch, not necessarily like.
Well, I think it's actually right around now is the time they do. Like I think it's November.
It's like December, isn't it? Well, anyway, regardless, I don't think they're going to do one this year, and
I think they're going to do a special kind of a reveal event, regardless if it's a PSX or not, and they're going to talk about what the launch games are. They have to. They're not just going to go on the internet. It's holiday 2020. That is next holiday.
Yeah, but
they have to be back at E3 this year, and they have to be it's holiday 2020. It's 2019. 2019's about to be over in 3 months, dude. There's no way they're not going to have something.
I think they're going so hard on that Nintendo business model of we don't need to be with everyone else. I think they're going to skip E3 again. And I think they're going to do a private launch event maybe in like August or something like that.
I know they're going to
skip E3. They're going to skip E3. They're going to skip Gamescom. They might do Tokyo Game Show. Just as like a nod to like their Japanese audience or whatever.
If it was coming out in 2021, I would agree with you. But it's coming out in 2020. They need to be on the show floor a little bit. But I don't think they're going to do any of that. If Ghost of Tsushima comes out in like the beginning of summer or late fall, they're gonna do stuff after that. After that release, I don't think it is. So you might be right. If Ghost of Tsushima doesn't come out like early summer, then they're not gonna go to E3. That's my opinion. I just think that they want to keep people focused on what they have now.
Yeah.
They got the remote play thing launching. They got a bunch of this stuff launching and updating right now on PS4, and all that's going to carry over. So I think they want people to stay focused on the console.
I'm wondering when they're going to start limiting PS4 and PS4 Pro production to shift production to the PS5.
But not for another 6 years.
No, but
5 years.
No, but you got to think to get that like launch volume and launch window. Like you need like a couple millions of units on deck, like ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't.
It'll just
surprise
slow
me.
down.
That's what I mean. I don't think that they're going to stop because we know these game consoles have a huge life cycle well after the fact.
That and the fact that everyone's talking about this cross-generation play and keeping a family of things.
Well, and it's building a platform. It's building a whole stage to play off of, regardless of you have this device.
People
or that
are
device.
still on the iPhone 6s. Put it that way. And
exactly.
it's like if you have people playing your PS4 when you're on 6 or 7, like that's great because you're still in that.
I don't think it's
ecosystem.
necessarily going to go that far,
but you know what I mean.
It might be every other.
I know people still bust out that PS2, and I know a lot of people on 3.
Oh, sure.
And mainly use it for like DVD or Blu-ray players, and then like play an old game when they're in the mood. But
so shifting topics a little bit, what have you been playing recently?
A whole lot of Control still.
Still loving Control.
Yeah, but it's also because I should have been done it by now, but I've hopped around a little bit. Like I hopped into Borderlands 2 two times with my buddy because he really is excited for 3, and because I wanted to get the feel for it again and be like, should I get 3? I'm still on the fence about it, but
well, we were talking about maybe waiting for a sale or something.
And it seemed to have this big talk right when it came out, and then I haven't even really heard anybody like going, "Oh yeah, they're loving Borderlands 3." Like everybody kind of fell off it.
The few people that I have mentioned it to not only beat it quick, but they were like, "Yep, that was cool, that was fun, that was more Borderlands."
And I have so many games that I can't justify buying that kind of game. Like, okay, cool, more Borderlands.
Yeah, you're not in the mood for, I don't want to say a one-shot game, but like a one-shot game. Something you're going to just run through and done.
Well, and I know it's not going to be like a super enticing story that I'm like, oh my god, this was so cinematic and incredible, and no. But like Control is that, and like then I have other fun games I'm playing alongside. And then, of course, Apex Legends Season 3 just dropped, and I've been playing that a little bit again.
Yeah.
Since I fell off of it, though, I'm so much not my old self in the game. And I was always like win. Like
I never got into Apex to begin with. I played it. It was competent. It was fun. It was a good shooter, but like it never grabbed me. You know what I mean?
And not like Titanfall did. And,
no, Titanfall was awesome.
But they're doing an event in a couple days, so I'm definitely gonna have to hop back on that. They completely made an entire new map, and everyone's been playing the new map.
Yeah.
And now this event's coming out on the 15th, and it's the old map, but it's completely changed for Halloween. And when you die, you become a zombie, and like all cool. This like crazy.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's how it rolls. They dropped the event page on PlayStation today, and they like it popped up and tells you like some kind of detail, but that's all I've seen of it so far.
Putting in like different modes and stuff. That's always a good call.
So it's interesting. I want to check that out.
I've been on the road traveling a lot, so I've been using my Switch in my spare time. I haven't really had a chance to get too far into some stuff. I actually started playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. That is a very interesting game. It's a little bit of a slower game. It is a strategy tactical game, as most Fire Emblem games are. But they added way more Persona-esque like loyalty system and like bonding system than in the older games that I'd played. I haven't played Fire Emblem in a while. I touched the most recent 3DS one for like 5 or 10 hours, and it was fine, but it was like a whatever. It didn't necessarily grab me. I think more because it was a 3DS than anything else. I was done with the 3DS earlier than a lot of people were. But the Three Houses is very cool on Switch. It's very build your party, build your bonds. Certain characters have certain strength with certain weapons. It's a cool tactical game. I'm all about the tactics, and that's a tactical game. I think they almost tried to like Pokemon it a little bit as well as Persona, just to kind of expand their base. So that way, like, you're collecting not only a certain person, but you represent a type of battalion, or you represent archers, and you can train other archers and stuff. And it's interesting. Cool. It's a game you have to sink a tremendous amount of time into. I already have that feeling. And as soon as I booted it up, it was like, hey, do you want the DLC expansion pass? And I was like, no, I don't need an additional 30 hours of content. Thank you.
Telling me about this, I'm grabbing my coffee.
This 60 hours I have to start with is more than enough. I'll buy 30 if I get through the 60. No. I'm saying just roundabout game time. Like I already have. It's like it's like booting up The Witcher 3 and then being told about The Witcher expansion passes. You're like, I that's hundreds of hours of gameplay that I can't deal with right now. I have hundreds of hours of gameplay in front of me. I also picked up Mario Odyssey. That was fun. I have not really run through it. I started it. It's Mario. It feels just like Mario. It feels great to play. It looks arguably better than any other game on the console. It's like Breath of the Wild good, if not better, in terms of how it's looking, because Breath of the Wild has that like cel-shaded art style. This is bubblegum Mario. Everything looks shiny and wonderful, bright and great.
Yeah.
And it runs like a champ. It doesn't stutter. It doesn't hiccup. It absolutely is fantastic.
That's awesome.
I'd been hearing some things about the new Zelda game, Link's Awakening Remaster, that it has been having some frame rate and hiccup issues.
Yeah, they're saying like certain parts of the map that are more cluttered and stuff. It has a lot of dropping and
rather
combat.
than having it be like a screen by screen like sequential map,
like it was originally.
Correct. Yeah. They went and worked it and made it an open world, and I think in the process of doing that, like, it messed up something somewhere in the background that it doesn't run as smooth as people would like it. I'm quite sure they'll patch it and fix it, but in the meantime, that's like a 12 or 16 hour game depending upon how you play it. So a lot of people, I think, are going to play it, run through it, and maybe not necessarily have the best experience with it and move on. But that's totally a game that everyone should enjoy, even if you're not necessarily eager for it. Wait a couple months for them to fix it, and then check it out.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I want to pull up some stuff for the future.
Okay,
but cool. I mean, I just that I've been debating whether or not to get something on the Switch. Apparently, there's a pretty good deal going on right now. For those of you who haven't had Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, that's on sale right now. It's a couple like Nintendo exclusives are actually on sale. Yeah. I want to say Mario Kart and Super Mario Party and a couple others I saw. That's cool. Didn't look at the shop myself yet. I just had a email come to me and they're like, hey, buy our stuff.
I still, with my Switch, I end up trying to buy more physical games than anything else. Like, if it's offered in a physical version, I try and get it in a physical version. That way I can loan it to, like, him or some other friends or what have you. I still,
did you
Nintendo
grab
games,
Odyssey on physical?
I did.
My man.
So that way I can loan it to this guy over here.
I need that.
Yeah, that is an awesome game, but be prepared to dump, like, forever into that game if you're really trying to be completionist about it.
Forever. No, I'm not going to be completionist about it, but you do need to bring me back Zelda soon, because that's that game I want to get back to. That's been sitting there. Yeah. I'm, like, literally at the end of the game, and I beat everything in it almost. I probably 75% done everything on the map.
Myself. I lent it to one of the guys from work. I got to get it back from him.
I hate you so much for doing that to me. You didn't even give him the case.
No, he didn't. I didn't.
I hate. You're never gonna get that back, dude.
No, I most definitely am, dude. Because I gave it to him.
It's gonna take forever.
I gave it to him in the what was the other Square Enix game they did? Octopath Traveler. I gave it to him in the Octopath Traveler case. Okay. Because I have all my games in my little, like, Zelda armored case. Like, I keep all my chips in there.
All right, so I'm gonna bring back up the full specs now for the consoles here. This is from over on Glitched, and this is an interesting thing because a lot of the stuff here is telling us that most of what's going on is going to be pretty much the same. Like,
yeah, if you look from a technical aspect, a lot of their overall components are going to be very similar. Maybe not sourced the same or tuned the same.
And it has been that way with the last console at launch. It was very similar that way, besides some RAM and a few other things. And we haven't gotten the full breakdown of either of the consoles. And a lot of this is just what we know for sure as of now, but those things could also change within a year and a half or so. Like, everything's optimized for this, but you never know if they want to bump up a little bit of small specs that won't affect
anything. They could get feedback from a developer saying, hey, we need like an extra like 200 megahertz, or we need an extra like half a gig of video memory.
Exactly.
The notorious case to point that out was Gears of War. When Gears of War launched on the original Xbox 360, it was the launch game, and they were having problems with it at 128 megs of VRAM, and they actually convinced Bill Gates and Microsoft through like months of lobbying to up the VRAM on the original Xbox 360 to 256 megs, and it made Gears of War run in 720p, and they were like, hooray, we did it.
All right, so we have here the layout for most of this, and so as for the processors for both consoles, we got 8-core AMD Ryzen Zen 2 CPUs, and they are both the same chips but customized for that console specifically from AMD.
So they're going to be tuned a little bit differently. The amount of cache on each chip might be different depending upon what the system's needs are. They have it listed as Project Scarlet at 1.6 gigahertz. That's not a confirmed spec. No. It's just what they might have stumbled across in an early dev kit. That in mind, both chips are targeting the 7-nanometer process, which is the newest, smallest, and most energy efficient.
The pin size is through the roof. Like,
correct.
You pin amount, I should say.
Yeah, that and overall just the architecture, the amount of transistors you can get on the chip is better.
So that they're both running a very similar GPU. I believe they're both running Radeon. I'm not sure why this says Arcturus, but maybe that is what it is.
They might have just put in a code name for it. It might not have been.
I'm pretty sure
it
they're
might
both...
not have been named at that particular time. But since they both have AMD Radeon cores and they both have AMD Radeon GPUs, it's very possible that they could also do like the APU dual graphics scenario where it ends up giving you like, for those that don't know, you would have 2 graphics cards or 2 graphics cores running a tandem configuration, so it optimizes the video differently. Prevents a lot of tearing, can increase some of the picture quality you see. It's pretty cool stuff.
So to quickly run through the rest of these, we got 16 gigs of GDDR6 SD RAM in the Scarlet, and that's not, I guess that was confirmed, but I'm pretty sure PS5 is running a very similar RAM, and they're both kind of speculative.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I don't think those were confirmed, but the 1 terabyte SSDs were confirmed. They're both running SSDs, and which is great, and that's going to help us a lot. But real quick, just going to run through the rest of them.
Okay.
They both are going to have optical drives, and I have a few people getting confused about this that I've seen even online. Where they think that the PS5 is not going to play 4K Blu-ray discs. And I'm like, dude, there's no way they're not going to do that again. There's a reason they didn't do it for the PS4 Pro, and it's because there was going to be issues with everything they had set up already and pre-planned, and they didn't want to put out something that would only work half the time.
Well, not only that, the way the PS4 Pro does 4K isn't the same way.
Exactly.
B, Sony invented the Blu-ray format, so I'm quite sure they know what they're doing.
Exactly. They decided not to do it with the way that everything was set up. And Xbox did do it, and I've heard a lot of people complaining about the 4K Blu-ray drive and that they have a lot of issues with startups and da-da-da-da-da.
Well, it's got a longer startup time in the regular ones, and not only that, but in the Xbox One S, they can use it as a 4K Blu-ray player, but it still only plays 1080p in games. So there's a switching issue where going from the dashboard running in 1080p to a 4K HDR movie, and it has to shut off certain resources in the background to do it.
Yes, and I think that goes in line with what I was saying about the PS4 Pro. Is they were they maybe couldn't figure it out as well as Xbox might have, but they just decided
it's an extra feature, it's an extra cost, and how much do they think it would actually be used?
This go around, I 100% see they're both going to do it, considering the next 2 specs of both saying they're going to run some form of 8K support, and they are both running at 120 frames a second. So I don't see why they wouldn't have a 4K Blu-ray player this time around, and one that's going to work well.
And the issue that you have to run into, especially when switching resolutions, it might be up to 4K 120, and it might be 8K 60 or something like that.
Of course, and as expected, and maybe even less. It might be a high 50 or
8K,
something.
8K 50 is Europe, so it would be 8K.
Well,
30.
you know what I mean. It's going to bounce around. And then as for the controller features, we mentioned haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, and I said to my buddy regarding this one, the USB-C connector, which I don't doubt that Xbox is going to do the same, but I said to my buddy, I swear to God, I won't buy a PS5 if they don't have a USB-C port in their controller. It was half a joke, but I was just sitting in a party with them, and it's so true, though. If you don't have C port in your new controller, I would have lost it. Because how many cords I've broken just from dropping the controller while it's plugged in, or just on the phones, and micro USB was horrible, and thank God there's a new one. And I literally said to my buddy, I'll buy an Xbox at first, and only if they don't have a C port on that controller.
Micro USB was great for what it was, but we need a new one. That was the first standard air quote.
I love everything I use as a C port. It's incredible. So that's really nice to see that they confirm that. And there's, as you guys know, I mentioned in my last video, PlayStation Now is making some moves. As you see here, they're both going to support, of course, xCloud and PS Now. But they're making some moves here with the PlayStation, and they almost cut the price in half, essentially.
Yeah, just about. It's what, $10 a month now?
Yeah, and that is awesome in my opinion. They put God of War on there, Uncharted 4, GTA 5.
So are you more inclined to check out the PS Now service?
Of course I am, but I have played all of those games, so I don't really right now, like what's on there, it'd be more for me to go back, and I don't really care right now because I'm so stumbled upon with so many games that I have.
And here's where Microsoft makes it compelling is I subscribed to Game Pass to try out like Sea of Thieves and like Crackdown and a couple other games, and it was like, hey, those are games that I wouldn't necessarily spend $60 on. I wouldn't necessarily buy. But you know what? I'll subscribe to this service for 3 months or whatever it is and check it out and see what's going on.
And then they just kept dropping
and
bangers.
It's like every other month they keep dropping something interesting.
Yeah.
And with Microsoft's whole first-party catalog being launched at the exact same time, it keeps giving me an excuse to keep that service there. I was thinking about getting rid of it, and they were like, oh, here's Gears 5 Ultimate Edition on launch day. And then the other day, I was looking for something to install on my Xbox, having just gotten home not too long ago, and I was like, oh, I know. Let me install the Outer Worlds, because that comes out in a week, and that's ready to go on my Xbox, pre-installed. So, like...
What a play on the Xbox's part. They grabbed that company, too.
They're real smart and stealthy, finding ways to just keep growing that service and snowballing it over and over and over again. And games that you wouldn't necessarily think are on there. Maybe they're only on there for like 3 months, but they were there. I got to play it, and I didn't pay for it. Part of that,
speaking of
pennies a month.
The time limit there, that's what PlayStation's doing too. They're pulling in this new price drop, and they're pulling in customers with the thought of God of War, Uncharted 4, all these good games that they're dropping on there real quick. Infamous Second Son. And they're like, okay, come check this out. And then those games are gone in January. So they're probably going to drop, a couple more PlayStation exclusives to replace them.
And I think that's what they need to do.
They're trying to get you in.
They need to cultivate that community and make it like a circus attraction of, oh, hey, you want to go see Fallout New Vegas streaming on PS Now because you can't play it anywhere else. Oh, boy, it's locked to, PS3.
And you know what that's going to do? It's going to make sure that these people go out, play this game on that subscription service for the cheap 3 months, and then once those games are gone in January, like GTA 5 is a prime example, they'll be playing that game still if they get caught up in it, and guess what they're going to do when that goes away? They're going to buy the game, and they're going to buy God of War.
What's even going to be funnier is, I bet you, mark my words, I bet you they're going to have a PS5 version of GTA 5. They're going to re-release that game.
Oh, God, I would not doubt it.
That game runs on toasters. That game runs on everything.
I would not doubt it at all. Well, it's backwards compatible, both consoles, so they really don't even need to do that. You can just play it.
They were like literally giving it away over the holiday season.
But I don't think they need to make a new version because they can just play it and it'll upsample on its own.
They'll probably have an upscaled version or like a compatibility app.
They'll pretty much put the PC version on the consoles. Like that's basically what we're getting next gen is
pretty much. We're getting to that point.
Good.
And if you look from a developer standpoint, it's even better because like a lot of the Steam games that are weird, interesting games that like, oh, maybe they sold a couple 100,000 copies on Steam and then they would normally just go away. Well, now it's so easy to port over to standardized Xbox and PlayStation 4 hardware that all these weird little games are just showing up. Like Darkest Dungeon was on Steam for 2 years ago, and then it came over to Switch and PS4 and finally Xbox, and it sold like a ton of copies because it's in a controlled environment and it worked out all the kinks over on Steam and some weird little platform.
Yep.
Or Epic Game Store if you like, because that's
it's funny how those things work out, man. They're always finding a way to get by on it.
Right.
So to say the least, it's been a very interesting week coming from Sony especially.
Yeah.
And they just keep dropping stuff on us, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, our crossplay is fully active now. All developers have a way to get into crossplay."
Beta.
Yeah, they just literally all this past 2 weeks or so, they just been dropping bomb after bomb, and it's like in the best way possible because they're not doing these crazy things or events or anything.
I think
they just tell people in articles, and then it spreads like wildfire.
I think what they're doing also is they're doing a lot of user-friendly stuff because it's the end of the generation. They're trying to wrap up this generation. What do they really have on it left? A year, 18 months tops if you want to count things coming out on PS4 after PS5 launches, because that is going to be a thing where like people still want PS4 games for like a year after the PS5 came out.
I was just going to say to you, I'll bet you $100 right now that they're going to sell more PS4s this year and next year than they have in previous years.
Oh, yeah, especially with the announcement of backwards compatibility. So everything you do, you're not going to lose your library. It carries forward. That's how Microsoft got me this generation, is they announced backwards compatibility like 2014. And I was like, okay, I can start to mess
continuously-
with you now. Now that you've taken the camera away out for your system and will actually let me play games I already own. Sure, I'm down.
Well, I continuously see people online talking about how they just got a PS4, and I continuously talk to people at work, and like I don't know if I'm spreading like a poison in that place, but as I talk about the things I talk about at work, everyone is progressively going, I think I'm gonna grab a PS4. Like my buddy just grabbed one, my other buddy just hopped on with me online for the first time in forever. Like they're all hitting me up.
I think we could see another big holiday bundle too, where they really try and push that number as far as they possibly can.
Huge this year
to see if they could possibly make it the best-selling console of all time. Period.
Yeah, they're going for it
because I think they made huge leaps and bounds when they came out with that $199 bundle of Spider-Man and a system. That was a huge holiday seller.
Yeah.
I mean, they moved. As far as I know, like at least 6 or 7 people I personally know bought one that year because they were like $200 for Spider-Man. Dude, I'm in. Like,
dude, you're about to see a bundle from Death Stranding, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima bundles, and then you'll start seeing bundles at the end of the generation with like multiple PS4 exclusives packaged with it.
And yeah, like you said, Death Stranding, they had a special edition with the little handprints on it. Like, whatever.
They're gonna pull it off, I think, because I know people with multiple consoles too, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get the Pro now. Like, why not?
Well, speaking of Pro, I'm wondering when Nintendo is going to start talking hardware revisions to see if there's going to be a Switch Pro coming soon. Because
I wouldn't doubt it.
The Switch version of Witcher came out, and in handheld it runs exactly like I thought it would at 540p. And that game is so wonderful, but to have that running at 540p makes me so sad on the inside.
It's not.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's great that people have the option to play it, and if you're playing it handheld with the regular Switch version, which I know a lot of people have, it's 720p, and that's still cool, still all right. But it's a subpar version of an awesome game, which you should really check out on a big system if you can. But it's still worth checking out The Witcher 3.
Yep, and it's like it's gonna be a weird one on that because like I've heard a few people talking about that at the IGN and stuff like that, and they're all like, "Hey, no, I'm not gonna play Witcher 3 again. If I want to play that, I'm gonna do it on my console." And I don't know, but regarding handhelds, PS4 Remote Play has just launched for all Android devices now.
I saw that. It's on literally all, which is not surprising considering Xbox is getting ready to do the same, but Xbox isn't really touting it, making it a big deal because PlayStation has had it for a while.
Yeah, I was literally getting ready to ask you for your old iPhone that you have laying around just so I could mess with Remote Play a little bit.
Yeah.
And a week after I was thinking about this, I was either going to hack my phone or do that. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. And then a week later, they're like, oh, by the way, Remote Play is coming, guys. And I was like, wait, what? Seriously? Like, that's awesome. Brand new phone.
That's
like,
cool, but that's
go.
also kind of funny because it took them forever for that to happen. Because I remember having a giant Sony Xperia phone that could do Remote Play.
Yeah.
In 2014.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like there's ways to do it. I've done it before in the past, and like it's just the Xperia phones and the iPhones.
Yeah,
they stuck with that, and I get why, because they wanted to have Android people go, okay, let's go buy a Sony phone because I have a PS4.
Not only that, but I think it's more important if you're trying to develop or program for a certain thing. Those fistful of phones have a certain amount of specs, and you can program for those 4 or 5 different specifications. Like, you don't have to worry about it running on every Android phone because, there's like a billion of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, it works really, really well, dude. I've been messing around with it. I was playing Spyro on it as a quick game to try it out with. Unfortunately, I cannot use a controller with my version of Android. The controller adaptations in Android 10, which we're about to get, everybody has something like my phone or better around this.
With Apple and iOS 13, they just rolled out controller support for everyone.
The Pixel 4 is about to come out, and I think that's kind of like why they want to roll out Android 10 around that time. Yeah. So it should be pretty cool to see what's gonna happen with that. I want to check out the controller thing, but honestly, dude, the Remote Play works so well. I accidentally connect because I do the primary console thing with Joey.
Yeah.
I signed on for the first time remote play without even thinking about it because I didn't even update my PS4 yet.
Signed
I
into
just
his
clicked
console.
it when this was in rest mode to see if it would launch it. I hopped into his console. I linked up right away to him, and I'm sitting here on the Wi-Fi here, and he's on that. So, like, I synced up to his console, and I see Apex in the background. And I'm like, wait a second, is this my old Apex match? Like, what is going on right now? Why is it showing me old stuff? And then I was like, oh, wait, that says WW Bad. I was like, that's Joey's console. I started cracking up. And I'm like, I gotta mess with him now. Like, I have to. He's on, and I have to. Like, so he goes to the home screen because he just saw me log on. Yeah, because I did that, and he starts sending me an invite, and I was like, oh, this is funny. So he sends me an invite. I'm watching him do stuff, and I waited for the perfect moment. As soon as he goes back to the game, I hit the button again and brought him back to the home screen, and then it just went back and forth, and he kept going back, and then after I could tell he was like freaked out at that point. I couldn't hear him, but I could tell he was like, wait, what's going on?
You were working him
then
up,
as soon as he stopped touching everything, and I just went brrring, 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 across the menu, and he immediately called me. I was like, damn, dude, good guess. How'd you know it was me? He's like, dude, that I was freaking out. How did you do
like
that? He's like, how'd you do that? I was like, dude, remote play just dropped today, and you updated your system, so I linked right to you. And I could link to my own console.
But you have to set it as primary?
I have to do the manual setup when I'm on my Wi-Fi. It'll search for it, and that's fine. But I was like, dude, I'm sorry, but I'm like if you want to play one of the games I own, you gotta let me know now, because I think I'm gonna make my console primary again, unless you want to play something. Because now
there's a reason to make it not
there's
primary.
And there's a lot of reasons, because I've been stuck not being able to download things off of, like, I can't go into like my PlayStation Market, buy a game while I'm at work, and then have it download in rest mode.
That's one of the things I really like about being able to like go through, or like we have the Game Pass app, so I just go to install stuff, and it just installs remotely while I'm like at work or running around or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things, like it just feels so right to do that. Like I was like, dude, I'm sorry, I gotta stick with it right now. But I was trying to check I'm trying to find the NPD charts real quick for this month, and I keep ending August, so they must not have September yet.
It might not have posted. It just ended like a week ago. Sometimes it takes like 2 weeks for it to process.
Okay, so it has year-to-date ending August 2019. That's interesting. It says Mortal Kombat 11's at 1, and then Kingdom Hearts 3 is at 2, and Madden NFL 20 is 3. Tom Clancy's The Division 2 is 4, and then Anthem is 5.
Anthem, because it got so cheap, sold a lot of copies.
Yeah, it's true.
Because I bought my copy for like $11.
Yeah, and then we got 6 Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, 7 Resident Evil 2, the remake, Grand Theft Auto 5 is number 8, and Red Dead Redemption 2 at 9, and Days Gone at 10. So Days Gone still making it as one of the top selling games of the year.
I gotta finish running through Anthem. I'm like halfway through that game, just playing it single player and just like running around like doing nothing, and I'm halfway through it. I think for $10 or $15, it's well worth it. Like, now that it's cheap and they patched out a lot of the glitches, like, it's a cool game to just run around and shoot. The story makes hardly no sense. Like, the story is not good, which is sad because you expect a good story from BioWare, but like, it feels like a Destiny like that had a lot of potential that they just couldn't like pull together. They had like their Cataclysm thing, like the world changing event, come and go, and people are like, whatever, dude, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I think that game's already like gone. They added it to EA Access, like the free tier or whatever of EA Access. Yeah. So they're literally just giving that game away.
Yeah. I was just curious to look though at the NDP charts, because I wanted to see like just based off regards to the game of the year, because that's very close around the corner.
I'm surprised Resident Evil 2 isn't on there. That remaster.
It is. I said it was. It was like number 6.
It sold a lot of copies this year. That was for me the highlight. I don't own it yet, but I played the demo.
The 7. It was a 7.
It's on my to-do list. I need to get that.
Yeah, and that is me too. But that was I'm just curious that it's cool to see Kingdom Hearts at number 2. Not that surprised.
Well, that was a big game. Yeah. Even if it didn't necessarily come out the way everyone wanted it to, it was a big game.
Well, the DLC's getting ready to come out too, so I'm excited for that. But no, it's just interesting because the popular vote, like, it always kind of aligns with that. You know what I mean? Like, if they're going to do the best ongoing game again, I don't think they're going to put GTA 5 in there again because they won in the past. And, like, you got best fighting games, you got Super Smash there. Like, it's like, I know it's not this year technically, but the ongoing stuff, they've been doing a lot more recently. Just curious to see that. Mortal Kombat 11's really up there. And,
Yeah, that was a big fighting game success this year. That was one of those ones that kind of... It was big with 2 years ago or something like that, but to see people come out of the woodwork and be like, wow, no, this was the one. This was the real good one.
Yeah. It kind of upsets me a tiny bit because there's a lot of games that aren't on that list that are better from this year, like Sekiro and Control. So, like, the popular vote, I know it's not as important as the journalistic vote, but, like, those two games, in my opinion, should be going up there, and I know... It's very different results.
It's funny that you bring that up. I was listening to another podcast, and they were going over just the top 10 PlayStation sales, not for all consoles, but just PlayStation exclusive, like the top 10 chart. And Control was not on the top 10 chart either, which arguably makes people start to think that maybe Control didn't sell that well. It wasn't necessarily...
It didn't sell that well.
It got critical praise, and a lot of people loved it, but I don't think it sold that well, which is a shame from the studio that did Alan Wake and all that kind of stuff, because they're notorious for making really, like, niche games that don't necessarily sell great.
Quantum Break, it's like me.
Well, Quantum Break was one of their, like, expensive ones. It was like a Microsoft first party game. Yeah, they put a lot of money into that.
So it's just it's just a little slightly disappointing in that regard. But they did they've been going for the Golden Joysticks Awards or whatever. And I voted for them on that. The Game Awards voting is not up yet. But I voted for them in the Joystick Award, and it was funny. The 3 categories I voted for them in, they all got selected in the short list now. So now it's one of 5 games or whatever to choose from in the second round of voting, I guess. But it was just interesting to see that. I was like, that's awesome. Like, all 3 categories I voted for, they're getting...
It's crazy to start thinking about, like, end of the year, Christmas, holiday stuff, dude.
It came so soon.
We're halfway through November, and it's already, like... October, I'm sorry. See, I'm already rushing it.
Yeah.
Halfway through October, and it's crazy to think, like, hop, skip, and a jump, Christmas is here.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's right around the corner. I'm excited to see who wins this year because it wasn't the craziest year. Like these awards.
And it's being that it's more or less the end of a console generation. It's interesting to see like what sleepers kind of just come out and they're like, oh, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Another one, not to go off on too far of a tangent, is I don't think Dreams is going to be like what everyone thinks it's going to be. Like they have that like paid beta going out now.
The early access is on right now.
And I kind of haven't heard anything about that. That's one of those little communities where like they're off doing their own thing, and it seems like people really enjoy remaking things in Dreams, but not necessarily making things.
It's going to be one of those things that are just there as an awesome tool for people, and it is early access. The game is going to be free when it comes out, so it's they're right now. It's all the people that are in it.
Be paid.
No, they said it was going to be free. It's to my recollection, yes. I'll double check it, but
it's not that important.
No, but I think that's going to be one of those games like in the early access. They got all these supporters right now, and it's just that's why I think you're not hearing about it too much. It's like look at Fortnite is a good example. I know that comparatively it's completely different. But when Fortnite was first around, it was barely talked about when it was in early access.
Before they launched the Battle Royale, when it was just
it's a very different subject, but it was very much in the background that whenever I mentioned Fortnite to people, they almost didn't know what it was. And then it was funny to see it come out of nowhere and then just
blow
explode.
up after PUBG. Yeah. Which is still out there playing and cross-play now with PC and PS4 and Xbox.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, that's going to be interesting to see soon what games start going crossplay. Apparently, the first one to launch with full crossplay, like aside from certain games that did the beta test with PlayStation, is going to be Call of Duty. And I played the beta for Call of Duty, and it was immediately crossplay. I was playing with people. Like it already had keyboard and mouse support.
They probably built it from ground up.
It had, I was playing with PC players, Xbox players, and everything. It was all good. Activision account link.
If you think about it, I'm not surprised because that's Fortnite's old school competitor is Call of Duty. If you think about the number of people who wouldn't buy Call of Duty because they're already playing Fortnite or vice versa, Like that's the big battle royale like game as a service.
Mm-hmm.
So our friend Flanny actually was playing Black Ops 4, their battle royale mode. He still plays it all the time and enjoys it. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Call of Duty's cool, but like the battle royale just didn't sell me.
Yeah.
But I think that's about it for this week, guys.
I'm trying to think. I was trying to make sure to check this Dreams thing, but it doesn't look like they've actually announced the full price for the game.
Well, probably because it's still so early in beta or limited beta.
Been around for a while, early access, and it says you'll get access to the full game when it launches.
Yeah, it was 6 or 7 months ago it came out, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I was trying to think what else I wanted to bring up. I know I had something else I wanted to bring up before we wrapped it up. Regardless, you guys should totally check out the PlayStation Now thing. I'm gonna be making another This Week in Geek video shortly. I figured out what it was. But I'm going to be making another This Week in Geek video, like getting more into detail with all this stuff that we mentioned here, and I'm sure there's going to be more by the time I get it out there.
Yeah.
But New York Comic Con has been happening.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And there's been a lot of different stuff coming out of that, but Marvel announced a new character, the Marvel Avengers game, a complete new character, and she's going to be kind of the centerpiece in a way, or a way to pull the Avengers back together, and it's Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel.
Okay.
So that's really interesting because that's not like a well-used character. I know she has a TV show coming out and Disney Plus in the future, and she's been brought up a lot recently. And with this, they dropped a full new comic run for her. But yeah, she's gonna play like a pretty integral part in the story. She's kind of gonna be the piece of the puzzle that's missing.
I was gonna say this is Disney's ultimate plan to make a Marvel superhero Disney princess.
I mean, yeah, she fits the motto. Yeah, she definitely fits it. But no, it's. I thought it was actually really cool, like, because it gives more meaning to this game. It stops giving people that idea that this is the Avengers they know and love kind of thing. Like, because people want that, and then they saw the trailers and they got kind of turned off by it because they're like, well, this isn't the Avengers. Because when they hear that name, they immediately stick to the movies in their head. So yeah, it's gonna be cool to see different characters coming in, and I have a feeling we're gonna get a couple more announcements before the end of the year is out on characters that are gonna play a part in the story. But yeah, I had to bring that to your guys' attention real quick because that is definitely gonna be cool.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I like it, and apparently the combat for her looks incredible. Like, and so, Brian Altano from IGN admitted that, or said that he thought that it was awesome that he finally got to see like a fun comic book game coming from them, like, because he's looking at the main characters and he's just thinking like, okay, this is a Crystal Dynamics Marvel game, but then it's like you have that kind of character that's stretching around and like actually that she's younger, so she's being more kiddie in a sense and more comic book,
more like lighthearted. Yeah.
So he was like, that's awesome to see them actually like show me a sign of like that Spider-Man-esque feel. Like, where it's like you're having quips and goofy stuff happening, and it feels like a comic.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. There's going to be a lot more news coming at you guys soon, so definitely subscribe to the channel, as always.
Check it out.
And hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, as always. And
keep on gaming.
He's got it. Peace out.